Hello, people of the internet, it's Amanda, and if you're new here on my channel, I usually talk about Japanese movies, dramas, entertainment. Sometimes I tap into other Asian pop culture topics as well, and one of my favorite things to talk about here on this channel is number I. As you can tell and you can see from my past videos, I'm a huge fan of them. And I was super excited when they announced a new single. No wonder they started becoming noisy again after the quiet that followed 3XL's release. I think my last video that is related to them was about 3XL. I did my usual J-drama or drama pop culture video recently, which is also what the channel is about, but I just missed making number I related videos. I've been posting some on my shorts and my reels on Instagram, but it just doesn't feel the same, sitting down here and creating a video about something that they've done. So Bugs Life. My first thought when I saw the teaser for this was the Disney Pixar movie. Fun fact, that was my first ever movie in the cinemas as a kid. And I rewatched it recently because of this music video. And another thing is I read the concept for this that they've talked about, and apparently the idea was them being bugs in the system, with what's happening with their career right now, being able to stand in front of their audiences and perform, especially after everything that has happened 3 years ago. And I really loved that, and it really made me excited about this track. This is also the first track they're releasing after the announcement of them signing to Atlantic Records, which is their new music label. And that's another reason to look forward to it, because a new label usually entails something. Now, it's pretty obvious how that is, because we already saw that the release of their concert DVD/Blu-ray has significantly expanded after signing. They, like before, it was mostly just exclusive to Be Official store, but now they're distributing to, I think, at least 8 different platforms and with different kind of like bonuses. So that's already a manifestation of how different being in a larger label is. However, I have to be perfectly transparent and honest about this, and I think I've talked about this in length on Twitter/X and like other platforms that I'm in. I like signing in a new with a new label is amazing, an amazing opportunity, but I was genuinely also just scared, in a sense that sometimes major labels shift the sound of an artist and restrict creative freedom in the name of profit. That's just the reality of it. I'm not saying that that's how it is specifically just for Atlantic, but that's just how the industry is. It's not just, it's very rare for a label to completely like give an artist, especially like number I, where yes, they may be popular, but in the grand scheme of things, they can still be considered as emerging artists. And sometimes you need to prove your worth through numbers. And even if they say that that's not their goal, as a group or as artists or whatever, and that's not their main focus, being affiliated with something big that pours in money to your marketing often entails that kind of expectation, and that often leads to artists jumping into trends and virality rather than creativity to be able to sell. And that was my main concern with this entire thing. And so I saw initial reactions about this music video. There were a lot of obviously mixed reactions and stuff, but I think that's just one thing that I have to comment on, is because I've seen some people talk about, oh, they're still back with the member produced system. They're still working with similar people in terms of production, etc., etc. And while I agree that having like a diverse team that they can bounce off ideas with is great and amazing, but I think wanting them to completely shift everything that they're doing in favor of a label might not be the best thing that, or a great thing that people think it is. And I'm really glad that when I saw how the direction of the music video is for this release, it still feels very much like them. And that is kind of like where I'm at the moment, just in terms of, you know, the creative freedom that went into this production. Yeah. Now, I will probably share more of these thoughts as we go along and as we talk about this music video. But without further ado, let's just get to it. They finally fixed the typo in that intro. I think during GOAT or somewhere, it was there were some typos in that warning. Literal butterflies in your stomach, feeling nervous type of thing. I have to say that again, they teased this and no one really knows what to expect about this music video. And I was generally curious about the concept, but I didn't expect this to be as trippy. And we've already gotten a lot of trippy music videos from number-i. So the trippy aspect isn't exactly surprising, but the level of trippiness for this music video is what's sending me. I really love the costuming for this one. This one surprised me a lot. And again, dance vocal group. Sorry, I really love this entire sequence throughout that entire music video. I think this is my favorite one. There are a lot of different references about them in the backdrop with, you know, just elements of their past releases, GOAT, Inazuma, references or jokes about themselves as well, like the Kishi dental place or whatever. I'm sure a lot of people on Twitter/X already pointed it out, but and I love this costuming as well. But I think overall, and I've talked about this on Twitter too, I love how like the references to popular places like Asakusa, one of my favorite places here. But I think I love this in a sense that these are places that are very familiar with foreigners. And for their first music video under a major label that is most likely gonna get amplified marketing through different channels, they decided to still stick with the Japanese-ness that they've been trying to push out there since the beginning, which I guess is more prominent when they did it with Bon, and then like traces of it in their other music videos. But again, they keep coming back to this is the kind of music that they want people to discover, like as a group coming from Japan, rather than pandering to just, you know, general Western music and vibes. And I think that was my initial concern as well, hearing that this was leaning towards funk, which is a type of music that is very viral in a sense on TikTok. It has this very funky, like techno-y sound to it. And I was wondering, like, are they leaning into a more TikTok viral sound because they're now signed with a new label? Again, in relation to the concerns I mentioned earlier. But hearing this still sounds very Number I. The vibe of it is still very much within the influences that they've had around, you know, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, with that kind of like gritty vibe to it. But again, you can see their identity as a group laid out throughout their music video. And if ever this becomes an entryway to their discoverability given the expanded marketing, then again, it's it's still aligned with what they want to say, as we're a Japanese group and this is the music that we want to put out there to the world, rather than catering to just what the world is into at the moment. And I like how buggy it is, again, in a sense where you can see like these are familiar places, and if you've been to Tokyo, then you would know that, you know, there's Shinjuku, there's also like, you can also see Odaiba's Rainbow Bridge there as well and everything. But like, for example, Skytree is overlooking Shibuya Crossing, and that in itself is kind of like a bug in the system, because those are like just not the same places and they're kind of like mishmashed together. I don't know, I feel like that's a really good detail. And then they zoom out of it and it's just part of this kind of like chip in a like chip in a bigger machine. So I like that. And then we revert back to this kind of like, again, very trippy vibe. I like that they keep talking about using CG or CGI in this music video, which I think is great in terms, especially at the age of AI, and how for some reason a lot of productions are leaning into AI as compared to collaborating with actual artists for these types of works. Because this is like, there's a lot of budget that goes into creating like just CG effects. So I can just imagine, but I like the emphasis that they talked about. They mentioned it in the FC video. Jin talked about it as well. I think they also talked about it in the morning news from like the snippets and everything, interviews and stuff. And I think that's a good emphasis because it kind of like reflects how they kind of like operate in terms of working with artists in these types of productions, rather than just relying on AI. And again, it adds to the trippiness of the entire thing and how things have been done previously, you know, which I really, really like. Another thing that I like about this, it reminds me so much of, and it feels like it's because I'm around the same age as these guys, it really reminds you of when your computer would lag, especially in the early 2000s or 90s, where sometimes it just freezes like crazy, or you have multiple kind of like windows showing up and you just don't know how to deal with it. And sometimes I would just kind of like turn it off straight from the CPU, which my mom advises not to do, but I kind of still do it whenever our desktop lags at the time. So don't tell my mom. But yeah, this is what it reminds me of. I like this one because, again, did you know that this screen right here is actually like the real one, which we know of, part of Windows, is actually a real place, and it just looks very kind of like picturesque. But the actual photo that this references is a real place. Yeah. I like this. I like the mini photos on the side and the do not click button, but still, as people, the more that we're told not to do something, we end up doing it anyways. And I love just how their music videos make me think what is going on inside their heads when they thought about this. Again, references a lot of like pixel mod games. This is so cute. This is a BUGSLIFE. I really love the arrangement of this part right here. I love that. Let's rewind that a bit. I really love this costume, especially on Jin and that thing. Absolutely love this sequence right here. If you've been a fan of them since Kimpuri era, that choreo right there would look very familiar in a sense. I have to admit that when I first saw this sequence, there was something about it that was bugging me. Pun intended, bugging me. Like, it felt so familiar, and there's something about it that I just couldn't stop thinking about. And then I saw that, and then Jin started talking about it in his live, where he mentioned that this part right here was suggested by Sho. It was them actually dancing to a different song that has a very similar BPM, or beats per minute, or tempo. But again, so instead of dancing to BUGSLIFE, they were dancing to a different track here. And the purpose of that is to have that connected but still kind of like unsettling, uncanny feel. And I absolutely love that detail, because it kind of like explained why there was something about the sequence that I absolutely love the choreo. I think it's impressive, but there was something about it that was just so, in a sense. And Jin explaining that just connects the dots really well. And I just find it interesting because some of the movements reminded me of Nanata and Ichiban. But yeah. And I think some fan pointed it out as well on X. But yeah, and I think some traces of their past choreos as number I kind of like trickles down to the sequence as well. And I'm so excited how different the actual choreo is for CDTV. But yeah, I just don't know how their brain just concocts these ideas of inserting a dance sequence that you didn't dance the song's music video to in the actual music video. Also, this choreo is very show coded. This is so cute though. I like this part because there are two butterflies who are already waiting, and then there's another one that kind of like joins them. It reminds me so much of how Jin and Sho were waiting and keeping everyone occupied up until Kishi joined them, and they formed number I. So overall, I just absolutely enjoyed that music video. Again, I understand people's sentiments when it comes to preferences. And oh, it just reminded me. I'm looking at it right now. My phone charm actually has butterflies in it. And yeah, anyways, but I just absolutely, I understand that people has preferences, and some this might not be their type of music. I understand missing some of the songs that they released before that are more, say, like Blow Your Cover, which is more R&B, or some of their B-sides that showcase more of their vocals. But I do understand as well the choice for their lead tracks as to how it needs to be disruptive. Because otherwise, if you release a lead track that is something that's already out there, very similar to some of their B-sides, I think, which is more mellow or has, a more poppy, fun vibe, it just doesn't differentiate them in the current market. And I think this is their way of disrupting that current market into attracting people to who they are. Because again, if they just keep doing what everyone else is doing, then there is a possibility that they would attract an audience that like that kind of sound. But also, I just don't think it's the philosophy that they're playing or they're paying attention to as a group. I think they want to be known for being able to create sounds that is more them, and then the B-sides just follow after. um and yeah, and I think that's kind of the mentality that goes into these productions. um I personally, I think for the most part, I've loved their like lead track so far, because these are just the type of music that I personally like, even outside of number I do agree that I miss some of their more kind of like chill vocal centric songs as well. But overall, just on a marketing level and also on a branding level, I get why their lead tracks are the way they are. Um, and yeah, but I do understand people having preferences and um, like critiques about it. I think the only thing that I just personally don't agree with is personal attacks on the members and the team, simply because they're not delivering what people kind of like project onto them. But yeah, that's just kind of like my thoughts on this entire thing. I'm just looking forward as to how this song is gonna track, how that choreo is gonna look like. I feel like I'm gonna enjoy the live performance of this more. I hope they release a dance performance video, because this music video honestly made me nauseous, like in a good way, but still kind of like very nauseous in a sense. Um, but yeah, I look crazy because it's literally so early and I wanted to film this as soon as I started my day, so don't pay attention to any of this. But yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and you would want to hear more from me, please hit subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you again soon in a new one. Bye!